What is up, everybody? Another episode of the Hobby with Cage. 21 of these I've now done. Um, I think I'm finding my rhythm. 21 episodes in, we're having some fun. Couple with Black Jaded Wolf, few guest episodes, trying to line up another guest now. Someone you guys know. Um, Also have some interesting guest ideas. Somebody agreed to come on the show. I hope you guys like it. It might be more for your 80s children like myself, but I think you'll get a kick out of it. But always open to ideas, guys. If you got somebody you think would make a good guest, maybe someone who hasn't been on a show in a while, or somebody you think needs to enter the cage and answer some questions, please send me a DM. Say this person will make a good guest. That'll be fun. That's one of the things I enjoy about this stuff, getting to chat with all kinds of folks. As I sat down to record today, my DMs are completely answered. I still try to do that. I got a lot of followers. I'm approaching 5,000, a couple days away from 5,000 followers on my personal account, which is pretty cool. That there's 5,000 people out there who want to see the ridiculous, weekly news and all the other mumbo jumbo that gets put out there on my account. So thank you to each and every one of the 4,900 and change of you that currently follow. If you're not following, give it a follow. You could be the 5,000th. Maybe there's, something in it for you to be number 5,000. Who the heck knows? It'd be cool. I'll definitely post about it. And if you are one of the followers on the account, you've seen some interesting posts from me this weekend. Posts that breakers probably don't like, especially a couple of them who found their way into my messages and a few comments. Because every product that comes out has to be the hot product. Every product that comes out has to be the product that we're gonna sell, we're gonna push, we're gonna you name it. And I put up a couple of posts about products this week. Number one was the production numbers, right? So, production numbers on Topps Series 2, right? So I had a fun one, right? I did like a little reel on it. It's still there, and I posted it in the stories and stuff like that also. Take a look, if you haven't seen it yet, because it's interesting stuff, right? Because it kind of shows you, I believe, the growth in the hobby from 2018 to 2023. That's a 6-year period, right? 6 different years of cards. Obviously, it's a 5-year stretch there, but it's 6 different individual years of cards, and it shows you. Right now, I did it for Topps Series 2, not flagship, but we could talk about that also. But Topps Series 2, and it's crazy because little Timmy, who I open cards with, my son, who the rest of you know as Ian, but the sports card nonsense guy's called little Timmy. When we opened up Series 1 this year, I kind of posted about how I wasn't thrilled about what I got in there. And it wasn't about like, wow, hits, not hits, or cards and common cards. It was these fake relics, that were just like hat relics. And it wasn't like, it's not part of any uniform. Forget about game use. It was never near the player, right? It's just they generate these things specifically for the pack. So it's like fake. It's plastic. There's never been near a field or a game or anywhere. They didn't even have to go to Dick's and cut up a jersey for it. It was manufactured just to be put in a card. And I kind of complained about that. We got a little bit of crap from folks like, what do you expect? It's Top Series 1. People don't open that, expecting to get value. Little Timmy's going to have to just suck it up and, be happy with what he got. Okay, fair. I get that. And we can talk about little Timmy towards the end with another fun thing, because I went to a show yesterday. I want to chat about that as well. Production numbers, important. Why? Because if you look at the numbers that have been out there from 2018, 2019, and so on, like I said, it gives you kind of a guide of what what you're looking at here, from a production number standpoint, right? I would love to say that what it means is that the hobby is growing, right? And that there's more people in it. And maybe that's the case, but it only does show one side. It shows the supply side. It's tougher to gauge demand. And I think it would be fair for us to say that demand may even be down a little bit in the last year, right? I mean, people are on here talking about Fanatics is going to increase the hobby 10x. That may happen, remains to be seen. It may happen, right? But if you see production numbers 18, 19, 20, and they're consistently going up every year, right? They're going up and they're going up by a lot. And I don't know whether or not, let's just use last year to this year. And we're using, again, this is Top Series 2 2023, right? Every base card. So this is going to show you how much of the product is being produced, right? Because every base card that's out there, that's filler, that's base cards in our pack, that's your rookies, right? Every one of those base cards, the more there are, the more packs they get to make, the more stuff they get to do, the more they get to open, the more they get to sell, right? So using 2022's numbers, 2022, every base card, so every card had 446,543 copies. I'll say that again, 446,543 copies in 2022. Okay. So that means if you were a Series 2 card last year, that's how many you had. Now, a lot of people would say that the hobby was peaking back then, right? And that maybe the demand for cards has gone down. All right. Topps obviously doesn't think that. They think that the demand for cards has gone up. And again, this is a very small sample. I can do this with Heritage. I can do this with other stuff. They kind of all show the same thing. But Topps is printing more cards. And it's not a slight adjustment, right? You can talk about slight adjustments in other years, and we can talk about that. Like from 18 to 19, there was about a 15% jump, 190,000 to 228,000. All right. Keep in mind, look at those numbers. In 2022, 446,000 per base card. So 446, you know what we are at now? 645,394 per base card. So if you're Anthony Volpe hunting, you don't really have to be, an ace hunter. You don't really have to be that good of a shot, because there's going to be 645,000 Anthony Volpe rookie base cards from Series 2. And why that's interesting is, and you can look at, I posted this, guys. You could see it on my story. You could see it in an Instagram reel. I have these numbers up there. The growth year to year is astronomical from 2022 to 2020, and it's grown each year. So let's do it one more time here, right? 2018, do a comparison. So that's 5 years ago, 6, products, but 5 years ago, 190,189. Compare that to this year's 645,000. It's more than triple. It's near, it's not 4 times. 4 times would be, well into the sevens, but it's more than 3 times. And you go from 190,000 in 18 to 228,000 in 19 to 230,000, almost the same in 20. Then from 20 to 21, 230 to 345. Okay, so that's 100,000 jump. So it's a decent number. 2021 to 2022, 345 to 446. That's 100,000 jump. All right, so we had a small jump, stayed the same, 100,000, 100,000. From last year to this year, 200,000. From 446 to 645. That's crazy. That's a big jump. That's a very big jump. And are we seeing that type of a jump in the amount of people who are in the hobby collecting these cards? Are we seeing that kind of, demand increase from 190,000 to 645,000? Are we seeing 3 times? Maybe. But are we seeing 3 times? Are we seeing what amounts to an almost 50% jump from last year to this year? That's where I think it gets interesting. And I don't know whether or not, we start to see, okay, there's going to be less of these. There's going to be less of these out there. And what I did by comparison was I looked at the 19 set, right? So 2019, there was 228,000 as opposed to the 2023 645, about a third. Okay, so there's about a third. You all know in Series 2 2019, I picked this for a reason. That was Tatis and Alonso. All right. Do me a favor and take a look at the population numbers across Beckett and PSA. On PSA 10s, 9s, how many total grade? You're talking about 20, 25, 30, 35,000 PSA 10s on each one of those. And as a result, even though Tatis is a machine, one of the great young talents in the game, he's been playing this year for like 2 weeks and already has double-digit home runs. Alonso has 21, 22 home runs already. I mean, he's leading the majors in home runs. I mean, no one is hotter than these two guys. They're PSA 10 rookie cards. PSA 10. I took pictures of the most recent sales on eBay, and they're in my reel. $28 per. In PSA 10, not base card, right? Now, why am I dedicating time to this? Why do we care, right? We've all learned the folly of our ways. No one's really buying a Tatis PSA 10 base card, are they? Well, sure. Well, if they're not, then why is Topps making these products just to open up, right? Why is Topps, doing this stuff? And why is it that there should be more? If a PSA 10 version of a card that has 228,000 is worth 28 bucks, what should you expect your Volpe that there are 3 times as many of to be worth? What should you expect that to have as far as value? That's why I ask it. And then more importantly, for comparison, right? Now, there weren't exactly, top flight crazy rookies in Series 1 in flagship. I mean, you had Michael Harris was a chase, Adley Rutschman was a chase, Brett Beatty was a chase, but obviously it wasn't the Yankee Volpe who's in there, who's going to be somebody that people are going after. 1,000,002 was the production number on those. Huge numbers on flagship, a lot of production. And I throw that out there for a reason, right? I make comparisons to junk wax era. I've made some fun little videos about Flawless. Obviously, Flawless is not junk wax, and Logo Man are not junk. And I put those in there just to get everybody thinking, right? It's a headline to get you to look at it and think about the production numbers of these cards. What a one of one really means. How many one of ones are out there? How many cards are out there of each player now? How many Trevor Lawrence one of one rookie cards there are, and whether or not those will maintain value because of the population. I remember being a 13-year-old kid when 1989 Upper Deck came out. All right, I remember this, and it was huge because people thought the market would take care of itself. I love that there was more competition there, and you have your Tops and you have your Panini. It's not licensed back then. There were other licenses, right? Upper Deck was licensed. And I remember as a kid, I remember going to shows. Tops it was nothing. A box of Tops, 1989 Tops. I mean, I think it was 30, 40 cents a pack, maybe. You know what I mean? And you were able to buy boxes, a 36-pack box for, what amounted to like 12, 15 bucks, something like that, in shows. It's probably what you get them for now, junk wax, but that's what you paid. When Upper Deck came out, I remember this like it was yesterday. Foil packs, crazy, white border card with the hologram on the back, $1 a pack. And if you wanted a box of 36 at the store, was $35. They give you $1 discount. I will never forget it. And I remember folks at shows saying they're never going to last. Like no one's going to pay $1 a pack, and no one cares about this product, and they're making too much of it, and it's never going to sell, and they'll be gone and out of business by next year. Obviously, Upper Deck is not gone and out of business, and obviously there was an appetite for it, but $1,000,000 bucks. I believe now. I do this for fun because people ask me about this. The 89 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. is the most graded card out there. I think there have been 100,000 copies of that card graded now. I think it's the first card to ever have 100,000 copies of it graded. That card was huge back then. It was huge. I mean, it was number one in their new product. He was the face of that franchise. He was their number one pick in '87. And obviously, that was card number one, and people held on to it when they got out of a pack. And I remember it was a $4 or $5 card. But the initial print run on it, people talk about this card like, wow, it'll never be worth anything. Do me a favor and just, Google print run Ken Griffey Jr. 89 Upper Deck, and you'll see articles from 2010, 2012, 2005, right around when he retired too. You'll see after 20 years in the league, this card will never be worth more than a couple of bucks because it's so common. There's so many of them out there that, it's so overprinted. Now, I believe the original print run on that card was 1,000,000. And then there was a high number box released, and there were also factory sets. And then, depending upon who you believe, what rumor mill you want to believe. Upper Deck, because they were new, was doing a lot of returns for people on the Griffey card because it was damaged a lot out of packs, because it was number one card, which meant it was top left on the uncut sheet, which means it was being cut uneven, probably also, more handled by the people cutting them. And also the ones in factory sets, it was card number one. It was up against blue cardboard in the factory sealed box. And if I remember, the factory sealed box also next to card number one had this weird white disc inserted in it because the box was a little bit bigger than the full card set. So, there were actually some, from being moved around, you'd have like surface issues with the cards. Some of the blue actually rubbed off on the white borders. And Upper Deck, not looking for bad press at the time. I think they were pretty liberal with returning those cards, and obviously that meant there were more being printed. And you even hear about other, full cut sheets of being printed of this stuff. Again, rumor mill stuff. But it would be fair to say that, maybe there's 1,500,000, maybe even upwards of 2,000,000 of those cards out there. Well, Flagship's doing 1,200,000 now of the base cards. And everybody's grading them and the like. I'd like to think that demand is going up. I'd like to think that, right? I'd like to think that that there's more demand now for cards than there was in 1989, just because there's more people, there's more collectors. Um, maybe that demand is spread out a little more. In 1989, we only collected baseball cards. It wasn't until, 91, 92, where really people cared about basketball cards. Jordan was coming into his own, Shaq came in the league, and it was a huge, seismic shift in collecting for the majority of kids out there. But it's interesting to watch production numbers, right? Because, if Topps is making this many cards, right? And the story was that was junk wax back then, when the 89 Upper Deck Griffey, which is the card that everyone holds out as junk. It sells for plenty now because of what it means in the hobby, but it's definitely not a rare card. It's the most graded card, 6 figures of them graded across all brands. It's if that's what you hold out as junk wax, and Topps is now producing as many, if not more, cards of the young rookies and of base cards now than what that was. And aren't we in a junk wax era? It's an interesting thing. It just is. I'll shut up about production numbers now. It's just one of those things that I watch, right? Will Topps, if the hobby kind of, plateaued in 2021, 2022, and now, and, we've seen kind of like people leave, the folks who are coming in and investing. And let's be honest, right? Let's call it what it is. I mean, there are people buying Topps boxes last year and flipping Joe Adell, like getting the Joe Adell out of it and sending it to PSA and grading it, right? The year before was Yordan Alvarez, right? You had your Bo Bichette, Kyle Lewis. I mean, come on. I called him as Rookie of the Year, and obviously his cards are not rare, and they are clearly not really selling for much anymore, just because he's basically gone. But even with the numbers being produced, people were coming in and trying to speculate, buying, opening, grading, flipping, selling. Is anyone doing that anymore? And if they're not, is the demand for this stuff peaked and maybe kind of, dropping down a little bit? I know we like to talk about, hey, Flagship, let's open it with your kid. I do it. I mean, I got 2 jumbo boxes of Series 2 coming myself. So all of this, let's talk about the numbers, the production numbers, the value, the whole deal. It almost doesn't matter. And I want to make sure we mix that in. I'm definitely opening 2 boxes of it with Ian on Wednesday. It's his birthday, so he'll have some boxes to open. I hope he gets something good. But the add-on on this, okay, and this is really the point of it. It's harder to hit something good now because production numbers going up of the base cards, all that means is that there's more product. And they're not printing more of the numbered parallels because there's only that many parallels. So if you're somebody who buys gold, Topps gold cards of rookies, you like that Mike Trout gold, your Mookie Betts gold, they number those to the year of the card. So, Trout's update is numbered to 2011. Volpe's gold card is going to be numbered to 2023. All right. Last year's cards were numbered to 2022. Think about it, though. Last year, you had to go through an amount of product to get a 2022 gold based on 450,000 base cards. This year, it's 650,000 base cards. I think that means it's about 30% harder, 40% harder. I mean, the numbers are not exact here to get that gold card of your rookie than it was just last year. What it means is that when you open that box, that jumbo box or that hobby box of Series 2, your odds of hitting one of those numbered parallels that you're looking for are worse than they were in prior years, which means the value of that box is less. It's like playing in a casino, right? There are odds of different games. What happened if they just, every year they adjusted those odds in each one of those games and made the odds more favorable for the house each time so that the house was making more money and the gamblers had a harder time hitting jackpots or even hitting cherries. So it's an interesting thing to think about. I roll into it because we had a fun day at the card show. My son took a friend from down the block, which is always good. Somebody who was not into cards, who are now getting into cards, which I think is part of the basis of growing, the hobby. If you bring in somebody, bring a friend. You know what I mean? That's kind of what we said. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, right? About this show. I hope you guys are still doing that. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your neighbor, tell everybody. As a matter of fact, yeah, put it in your story. If you're listening to this right now, throw it up on Instagram. Say, I listened to the show, Andy Savakinis. He's one of my listeners who does it almost every day. I love you for it. Throw it up in your story if you enjoyed this episode. This was a good one. Throw it up. I'll repost that every single time. I love that support. I love seeing that people are listening to this. Anyway, so we went to the show. And we brought somebody who's not a big collector. My son brought some cards with him. He walks around with a box. I think he has an SGC box from returns because he has some cards in SGC, some cards PSA, and it's just easier because the SGC slabs are bigger to carry them in a box. And a couple fun little notes. Number one, a couple of young kids would walk up to him and say, "Hey, you got a box there? You trading?" And then they kind of like skulk away into a corner of the show and they, "Oh, what do you got? Okay, I'm going to trade. Okay, this. Ian, he's kind of like me. He's too much heart and not enough shark. Little dude, a couple years younger than Ian, walked over with a Boston Celtics jersey. He had a case. I mean, his case was nicer than Ian's. He had this like yellow Zion case. Ian's walking around a cardboard box, but he opens the case up. He doesn't have a single graded card. Not a graded card in there. His cards are kind of thrown around. They're top loaders. Some of them just in penny sleeves. Nothing great in there. But he looks through Ian's cards and he pulls out a Jalen Waddle. I think it was from, I forget what product it was from. It was one of these, like, it looks like Court Kings, but obviously it's not Court Kings because it's, that's a basketball. But it's like that. It's like an art kind of card. And it was an SJC 10. Not an expensive card. It's one of those cards that I can't even believe we graded. But he got a 10. Nice card. Probably worth $20. Worth whatever the grade was worth. And the kid was like, "I like this card. Is there anything in here maybe that you like?" And Ian didn't really like too much stuff. But he pulled out like a raw Christian McCaffrey, jersey relic. And I think we added in maybe like a Kyle Pitts jersey relic. And, I think the cards were probably worth like $5 that he took out. And he's like, "Here you go." And the kid was so excited. "My first graded card." And he put it in the case and and all raw cards and one graded card. And Ian looks up to me. He's like, I lost that trade, but I know I lost it. The kid really just wanted a graded card. And then he went out and walked back up to a couple of dealers and, threw a bunch of cards on a table. Had a chance to sell $500 or $600 worth of cards, but a couple of the prices that were being offered for some of his cards, he didn't want to take. He said he'd rather hang on to the cards. So I think he sold a couple $100 worth and then went and bought wax because that's what he does. Even though the cards he had are worth more than what he's going to get in the boxes. We opened a box of the Bowman Chrome University looking for Wembanyama and another Inception box looking for Wembanyama. And when I tell you that he got $5 worth of cards in each of those boxes, I may be exaggerating. It's pretty bad, especially Inception. It's 7 cards. There's one numbered card of someone I never heard of, and the 2 autos were both people we never heard of. Neither of them were numbered. And the Chrome, again, the autos no one ever heard, but that's kind of what you're going to get in a college product, right? if you don't hit one of the main people, it's going to be pretty slim pickings. He didn't get any Wembenyama in either, and I guess I think the Wembenyama is short printed. But I will throw this other little fun thing out there. Um, it's I won't end on negative. I got one little optimistic thing to tell you after this, but stick with me. I'm going to make sure I put this in my news so you guys will get a jump on it for this week's news. I feel like there was a bait and switch done here. I have no I have no sponsors, so it's fun stuff. I would say this even if I had 50 of them though. I loved seeing Victor Wembanyama holding up his Bowman Chrome University card. Remember, it was the green one out of 99 that said the first card that I signed, right? And it's one thing that the Inception product had his autos as redemptions, right? But you saw him holding up the green card that said the first one that I signed. This is my first card I signed, right? I posted about it. It's on there. Check out my page. I'm 99% sure that his auto isn't live in this product. If it is, it's not everywhere because I've seen redemptions pulled of his auto. So I don't like that. I don't like that this is something. I'm pretty sure that picture had Michael Rubin in it, right? I think he was there with him when he was signing, or he was in the picture, and you got Wembanyama signing the card. It gives the impression to people that when you're buying that box, you have a chance of pulling that card. It is a cool chase, right? It's wow, I can pull the green out of 99. Pretty sure I saw a green out of 99 redemption come out of a box yesterday when I was looking. I think it was on Twitter. Somebody posted it. That kind of sucks. I mean, what's next? Are we going to hear about the MLB debut patches being in products and they tell us what product they're in and their redemptions? I mean, that is just one of those fun little things where I'd love to see some redemptions kind of done away with. Because if you're not ready to have the in the product, then it's not in the product. It's kind of what basketball card guy John said. Take a look at his page, little video he did about redemptions as well. Anyway, so that's just I'm on my soapbox talking about that. I'll throw it into my my news week. Last thing, because we're already at 27 minutes, and I try to keep these things to like 25. This way, the heavy people like myself who are on treadmills and say I'm going to run for the length of the episode, so that you guys don't die. I don't want to make them too long. I liked being at the show. It was a kind of like a renewed sense of optimism, collector wise. I was looking for a penny sleeve for for one of the cards that Ian traded for, a penny sleeve and a a top loader or whatever it is. And I'm walking around all over the place. And one of the things that wasn't optimistic about was the supply guy had penny sleeves for $3 a pack. They're called penny sleeves because the pack of 100 should be $1, right? My LCS still charges them $1, right? I mean, that's kind of what they are. They're called penny sleeves, not $3. They're not 3 pennies per sleeve. So I didn't pay that. I should have, but it's out of principle that I didn't. And I walked past this one guy's table a couple times and he's like, "Hey, come over here." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You're looking for a plastic, right?" So I already knew this is somebody who's been doing this for a while because we call them plastics, right? You're looking for a plastic. That's plastic. Yes. So we put the card in a penny sleeve and, and sleeve the card up in a plastic. And I called my son and his friend over and I put $20 on the table and I said, "All right, guys, go to town, $10 each on the, on the dollar box." And the guy was like, "You didn't have to do that. I was giving it to you for nothing." But this is how this works, right? If somebody is nice to you for no reason when they don't ask, you are nice back to them. And he was great. He threw extra stuff in. But my son's friend now wants to go to every single card. He's like, "For $1, I got this Tyler Hero rookie. I'm watching. I can't wait. Hope he comes back for the finals." He's got a Tyler Hero jersey. He's like, he's a net fan. I got Cam Thomas. I got 2 Cam Thomases. And, then the guy takes another Cam Thomas out of a box underneath the table and says, "Now you got 3," and, throws it at him and stuff. And, that was a $10 spend on this kid. And he went home beaming. Like, this is the greatest thing ever. He's going to tell his parents. His parents are probably going to ask me when the next card show is. And that's kind of how this thing progresses. And it made me happy, right? Because it was an eye-opening thing for me. This is still a kid's hobby. It's still something you can have fun with kids. And it didn't require a $165 Inception box or $175 Chrome box and got nothing in it. And my hope is that my son also enjoyed spending $10 on the value box and getting some cards that he and his friend can now talk about on the, on the stoop, or hey, they're playing basketball, they're shooting over here, and oh, that's like, yeah, that shot is just like the Cam Thomas that I got. And let's go and look through some value boxes next time. To me, that's the hobby, right? It's fun to open. It's fun to open wax. Sure. I mean, that's not going anywhere. Breaking's not going anywhere. But I love that our time at the card show was balanced between ripping some boxes and then also finding some cards of guys that they liked. And my son left with some cards also. I don't think any of them are gradable or anything like that, but they're now part of his collection. And it was fun. So that's it. There's a 30-minute episode for you guys. A little bit of production numbers, some heady stuff, a lot of numbers I'm throwing out at you. And then we got, we had some fun here. Talk about the show. Talk to you guys soon. I'll have the news, the hobby news week out this week, Tuesday, and we'll have another episode on Wednesday. I hope to have a guest for you guys soon. And yeah, my ask again, guys, subscribe to the channel, put some comments in there. I try to respond to the comments if you're doing this on YouTube and on Instagram. Like I said, I'm a couple away from 5,000. I'd love for you to follow the personal page. You can follow the Hobby with Cage page. That's got way more followers. But yeah, I mean, I would love it if you are listening to this. Snap a little, shot on your phone, put it on Instagram, and tag me in it. And I'll repost it on my story 100%. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.